Ya, baik. Selamat siang kepada para hadirin yang telah berhadir pada peringatan ke-6 tahun UNDROP, pengarus utamaan UNDROP di dalam kebijakan publik, di mana pada tanggal 18 Desember tahun 2018 yang lalu, atau tepatnya 6 tahun yang lalu, adalah lahirnya atau disahkannya deklarasi untuk hak asasi petani dan orang-orang yang bekerja di pedesaan. Dan pada siang hari ini, kami dari Serikat Petani Indonesia dalam rangka memperingati 6 tahun pengabdosian UNDROP oleh PBB, mengundang saudara-saudara semua seperjuangan untuk hadir dalam webinar internasional pada kali ini, di mana di sini telah berhadir pula yaitu pembicara dari Serikat Petani Indonesia, juga dari Assembly of the Poor Thailand, dan juga dari Mokatil Timur Leste, dan juga Monlar Sri Lanka, juga para Gos Filipina, juga ANPA dari Nepal, dan Ibu Salma Likutal, anggota Pokja UNDROP. Dan pada kesempatan ini juga moderator kita adalah Bapak Zainal Arifin Fuad, anggota ICC Lavia Campesina untuk Asia Tenggara dan Asia Timur. Dan untuk sebelum memulai acara ini, kami akan memutarkan video animasi mengenai
an animation video on about the journey of UNDROP. Please enjoy the video.
The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Peasants and Other People Working in Rural Areas, also known as UNDROP, is a UN declaration of human rights that internationally recognizes peasants' rights as political subjects, peasants' struggles, as well as their special relationship with Mother Earth. It was approved by the UN General Assembly in December 2018, following 17 years of mobilization and negotiations led by La Via Campesina, the world's largest movement of peasant food producers and its allies. Over the next few minutes, we will explore the main ideas of UNDROP and show how it can be used by peasants in their daily lives and struggles for food sovereignty, agroecology, climate justice, agrarian reform, and human rights. UN human rights declarations are international legal instruments that are voted on by United Nations member states and formally adopted by the United Nations General Assembly. Even though a declaration is not in itself legally binding to states, its content is often a reflection of legally binding international human rights obligations. UNDROP is historic because for the first time, the realities and needs of peasants and rural communities are addressed in the form of human rights and states' obligations. It defines a peasant as someone who engages in small-scale agriculture and relies on non-monetized labor, dependency and attachment to the land. It underlines the international community's commitment to protect, fulfill and respect peasants' human rights, namely the right to access effective and non-discriminatory justice, land, seeds, biodiversity, water and other natural resources. Seek, receive, develop and impart information about processing, marketing and distributing of their products. Food and the right to be free from hunger. Food sovereignty and the collective right to a healthy environment. Social security and the right to health, housing and education. Enjoy culture and pursue culture development freely. And the rights of peasant women and other women working in rural areas. UNDROP is important because it was written by peasants for peasants and is based on our own realities and experiences. It acknowledges our relationship with the land as well as our shared oppression at the hands of transnational companies and agribusiness. Additionally, as an international legal instrument, it outlines states' obligations to enforce the rights of all peasants and rural communities by protecting our needs. It is a declaration like no other. UNDROP can be used as a toolbox to face discrimination and oppression. UNDROP has the potential to protect us and assist our community in our daily lives through community organizing, documenting rights violations, drafting legislation and public policies, claiming our rights before the court, communication with the media. And the good news is that many organizations from all over the world, such as Palestine, Canada, Indonesia, Nepal, Uganda, Colombia, and many European countries are already using UNDROP to demand that our rights be respected. For more information, you can access UNDROP's illustrated booklets from La Via Campesina's website. These booklets break down the UNDROP into 4 themes and explore in depth the ways it can offer protection to our community. Let's globalize the struggle and globalize hope.
Ya, terima kasih. Dan untuk selanjutnya kita akan memutar video kedua. Disilahkan Mas Nafis untuk memutar
Nafis,
video kedua.
please play the video.
Negozioek mundua dute trabatu, nekazarion bizi modua ez zaigu gutxi kaltetu.
Gauzako beto egin ezean bizi ere, ozta atzoko aziek, gaurko frituak, gaurko aziek, biharko guztak.
Bilduko dugu onura, landatuz gero berdintasuna, zabalduko da kultura, denontza lana, denontza jana, denontza taska, tasuna, denontza taska, tasuna. Etxe bakarra, sutsituz gero akabo lurra, hartatu ezik lasterka, martera joan beharko.
Gauzako beto egin ezean bizi ere, ozta atzoko aziek, gaurko frituak, gaurko aziek. hasiek biharko usta.
Erein ez gero elkartasuna, bilduko dugu onura, landatuz gero berdintasuna, zabalduko da kultura, denontzat lana, denontzat jana, denontzat askatasuna, denontzat askatasuna.
Zuka beraz gehienak pobre, nekazarien kondena, baina mundua hobea egiten, egingo dugu guk lana. Batzuka beraz gehienak pobre, nekazarien kondena, baina mundua hobea egiten, egingo dugu guk lana.
Finantze, gerrek negozioek mundua dute trabatu, nekazarion bizi modua ez zaigu gutxi kaltetu.
Gauzak hobeto egin ezean bizi ere, ozta atzoko hasiek, gaurko frituak, gaurko hasiek biharko usta.
Erein ez gero elkartasuna, bilduko dugu onura, landatuz gero berdintasuna, zabalduko da kultura, denontzat lana, denontzat jana, denontzat askatasuna, denontzat askatasuna. Planeta hau dugu etxe bakarra, sutsituz gero akabo lurra hartatu ezik lasterka, Martera joan beharko.
Gauzak hobeto egin ezean bizi ere, ozta atzoko hasiek, gaurko frituak, gaurko hasiek biharko usta.
Erein ez gero elkartasuna, bilduko dugu onura, landatuz gero berdintasuna, zabalduko da kultura, denontzat lana, denontzat jana, denontzat askatasuna, denontzat askatasuna.
Zuka beraz gehienak pobre, nekazarien kondena, baina mundua hobea egiten, egingo dugu guk lana. Batzuka beraz gehienak pobre, nekazarien kondena, baina mundua hobea egiten, egingo dugu guk lana.
Ya, terima kasih kepada
Thank
Mas
you,
Nafis untuk pemutaran video yang
Nafis,
kedua
for
tadi.
playing the
Dan
second
sekarang
video.
saatnya kita untuk foto
Now,
bersama. Jadi
let's take a group
silakan yang
photo.
hadir
So,
untuk
please, we'd
segera
like to invite you
membuka
to
videonya.
open your
Dan
camera.
acara foto ini akan dipandu oleh Mas Nafis.
And this
Silakan
photo
Mas Nafis.
session will be led by Nafis. Please, over to you.
Baik, silakan
Please, everyone,
yang membuka videonya.
open your camera.
Masih ada yang belum?
We're still waiting for you to open your camera.
Oke, silakan. Baik, untuk slide yang pertama,
Okay, we'll
satu,
start with the
dua,
first slide. 1, 2, 3.
Viva la Via Campesina. Oke,
Baik,
baik,
terima
terima
kasih.
kasih.
Ya,
Alright, thank
terima
you.
kasih Mas Nafis.
Thank you,
Dan
Nafis.
kami akan serahkan acara webinar pada siang hari ini
And
kepada Bapak Zainal
we'll
Arifin Fuad,
hand over
selaku
our agenda today to
anggota
Mr.
dari ICT
Zainal
Lembaga
Arifin
Nafis
Fuad as
Nusa
member
Tenggara
of
Asia Timur.
LVC Lavia
Silakan
Campesina
Mas Zainal
for
segera
East Asia
memulai
and
acara
Southeast
ini.
Asia.
Terima
Please, Mr.
kasih.
Zainal, over to you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, Mbak Rati, and also Nafis for playing the video of our formation material of UNDROP and also video about the history of UNDROP. Good afternoon, so our comrades and also focus, yeah. I saw Bang Henry as General Chairperson of SPI, and then Salma Ali as the member of UN Working Group, and Joseph Focus, and also our member from Paragos, yeah, from NPF, from AOP, also Andika from Monlar, Primes from ANFA, I think also Rafa from SETIM in Geneva, good morning. And then Bung Helio from Timor-Leste, selamat siang, good afternoon. Yes, no, and also other comrades who I cannot mention one by one. So yes, now we celebrate the sixth anniversary of UNDROP. Yes, if we use the New York Times, the UNDROP is declared on 17 of December, but in Asia time is 18 December. Yeah, and then we continue got the resolution of UN Working Group on 11 October 2023, and also finally in March, last March this year, we have the UN Working Group, yeah, of Ratu Bison and Otigul Waria and Salma Ali as a member for Asia Pacific. Yes, the main thematic of public policy is rise in our meeting, our conference in Bogota. So that's why in this anniversary we also continue to convey this main priorities on the whole Lavia Campesina can influence public policy at all level, yeah, from national, regional, and international level, through by bringing UNDROP in any issue in global level. Especially we already successfully to bring to make FAO conduct the new ICART, yeah, in 2026. And also now we also in focusing to finalize our international framework, so then we can influence UN on the trade issue based on and also food sovereignty. Now we have several speakers, but for opening remark, we wait to Bang Henry first, and then followed by Joseph. Okay, please, Bang Henry.
Viva la Via Campesina.
Viva.
Hidup petani.
Hidup.
Long life, peasant.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello, good afternoon. May peace be upon us
Yang
all.
saya hormati pembicara
The
dari
honorable,
Serikat Petani
the
Indonesia,
speakers from
dari
SPI,
Assembly of the Poor,
from Assembly of the
Mokatir,
Poor, from Mokatil,
Paragos,
Paragos,
Monlar,
Monlar,
dan
Anfa,
Ibu Salmali.
and Miss Salmali.
Pertama dari Fokus Global South.
from
Dan yang
Focus Global
kedua
South
tentunya
and also
adalah sebagai perwakilan dari Working
as the
Committee UNDROP.
representative of UNDROP Working
Sungguh
Committee.
luar biasa sekali pertemuan kita ini
This
karena kalau
is
kita
an
lihat ini kita
amazing
hampir bisa bilang
meeting
mewakili dari
because
Asia ya
seems
pembicaranya.
like the speakers
Dan
come from different part of
terima kasih juga
Asia.
kepada peserta
And
yang
also
lain
thank you
ya,
to the
yang saya pikir
participants
hadir dari Korea, dari Jepang
from
maupun
Korea,
dari
from Japan,
negara-negara yang
from
ada di Asia ini.
other countries in Asia.
Jadi kalau kita lihat kembali flashback
So
perjuangan
if
kita
we flash
untuk
back
hak asasi
to
petani
our
ini,
fight
kalau dihitung
for
dari mulai formal
peasant
berjuangnya
human
kita
right,
tadi
we
itu,
formally started the
ya,
fighting
kalau dari konferensi hak asasi petani Indonesia
from
itu
Indonesian
baru
peasant human right
katakanlah
conference
17 tahun plus
in
ditambah
17
dengan
years back plus
6 tahun sekarang baru
6 years now.
23 tahun.
So it's been
Tapi kalau
23
kita
years.
mau sesungguhnya merujuk kembali
But
lagi
if we
dari
want
mulainya kita membicarakan tentang hak asasi
to
petani ini
flashback
di
when
Lavia
we first
Campesina,
talk about
yaitu melalui
peasant human right in
konferensi
Lavia
Lavia
Campesina
Campesina yang
through
kedua
Lavia
di
Campesina
Uppsala,
conference, the
Meksiko.
second conference
Karena pada
in
konferensi
Mexico.
itulah sudah
At that
keluar
conference,
satu dokumen tentang hak
one
asasi
document was
manusia yang membicarakan
born,
tentang
document
bagaimana
on
nasib dari
peasant human right,
hak-hak
talking
petani,
about
hak-hak
the
orang-orang yang
rights of
bekerja di
the
pedesaan
peasants, those
di
who
dunia
work
ini.
in rural area all around the
Saudara-saudara
world.
sekalian, saya
Ladies and
ingin
gentlemen,
mereview kembali, mengulang kembali
I
sebuah
want
pertanyaan
to
waktu itu
review a
ketika
questions
kita sedang giat-giatnya memperjuangkan
when
bagaimana
we work really
hak
hard
asasi petani
to
ini
fight
menjadi sebuah
for
deklarasi di
peasant
UN.
human right in order to make it
Mereka
as a
bilang
declaration
seberapa
at the
jauh
UN.
nanti
They said,
bergunanya
to what extent
deklarasi
can
ini
it be
bagi petani.
useful? How can this declaration be useful
Apakah
for
dengan
the peasant?
sudah adanya deklarasi ini nanti otomatis
Is it
bisa
by having this
hak
declaration,
petani terlindungi di dunia?
peasants' rights can be
Waktu itu saya
protected all
katakan,
around the world? And back
pertama,
then I said,
dengan adanya deklarasi
by
hak asasi
having
petani,
the
tidak
peasants'
serta-merta
human right
kita katakan
declaration,
hak
it
asasi
does not
petani dilindungi di
guarantee that
dunia ini.
peasants' human rights are all
Tapi kita
protected all
katakan
around the
dengan
world.
adanya
But
nanti
by
deklarasi ini,
having this
kita
declaration,
petani di dunia punya
peasants all
satu
around the world
pegangan
have
hukum
one
di tingkat
legal
internasional
guidance
yang
at the
melindungi
international
hak-hak
level
petani.
that protects them.
Nah, itu yang saya katakan. Karenanya, saudara-saudara sekalian,
That's why, ladies and
sekarang
gentlemen,
sudah ada deklarasi hak asasi petani.
now we have Peasants' Human
Seperti
Right
halnya juga
Declaration.
adanya deklarasi masyarakat adat
Similarly,
yang sudah
we
keluar
have
tahun 2007. Bahkan sebenarnya posisi dari deklarasi hak asasi petani ini
Customary
sama
Society
dengan deklarasi
Declaration.
hak asasi
And
manusia.
the position
yang
of Peasants' Human Right Declaration is similar to
awal
Human
gitu.
Right
Jadi
Declaration
memang benar ini
that has been
sifatnya
issued much
formatnya
before that.
adalah
So
deklarasi.
this
Tetapi
is a
sebenarnya
declaration
walaupun
indeed,
dia
but
belum binding,
actually,
belum mengikat
although it is
seperti
not
halnya
binding
konvensi, tetapi
like
ya,
the
menurut
convention,
kita
but
deklarasi ini sudah
I
sangat kuat
think this
seperti halnya
declaration is already
kuatnya
very strong, very
deklarasi
powerful,
hak asasi
just
manusia.
like Human Right Declaration.
Nah, saudara-saudara sekalian, tanpa terasa
So,
sudah
ladies and
6 tahun
gentlemen, it's been 6 years
deklarasi hak asasi manusia ini
that
hadir
Peasants' Human Right
dan
Declaration is here with
kita
us.
tentunya sudah punya pegangan.
And of
Sudah
course, we
punya
have
rujukan,
a
kekuatan
guidelines.
hukum
We
internasional.
have international
bagaimana
power
agar
at
memang
international level.
adanya deklarasi ini bisa betul-betul
And
menjadi
how
suatu
can
kenyataan,
this
bisa
declaration
menjadi perilaku bagi umat di dunia ini,
can become a
dalam melindungi petani
behavior
dan juga memajukan
that
hak
can
asasi
protect
petani,
all the peasants
itulah yang
all
memang
around the
harus
world
terus
and
kita
can
lakukan.
advance the life of the peasants. This
Di tingkat
is our
internasional,
task at
ya,
international
sudah
level.
sekarang ini walaupun menurut kita sangat lama, ya sudah ada
Although the
ya
process is a bit
working committee
slow, we already have the
yang
working
bekerja
committee
untuk urusan
that
hak asasi
works
petani dan
for
orang-orang yang bekerja di
peasants' human
pedesaan.
rights and
Sekarang bagaimana
other people working in
kita
rural area.
menggunakan
Now, our
kelembagaan
job
ini?
is how to
Kita
use this
harus
institution.
memaksimalkannya.
We have
Kita harus
optimized this
memberikan
organization. We have
laporan-laporan
to
tentang
provide
keadaan
active
hak asasi
report
petani,
on the conditions of
bagaimana
peasants'
keadaan
human
hak asasi
rights,
petani dilindungi,
how
bagaimana
their rights are
keadaan
protected,
hak asasi petani yang seharusnya
what is the
dijalankan.
ideal condition of
Jadi,
peasants' human right that should
kita
be
punya
implemented.
harus aktif,
So
baik
we have to be
katakanlah
active,
di tingkat nasional, di regional
be it at
maupun di tingkat
international, regional, or
Tentunya di
international
tingkat
level.
internasional,
At
kita harus terus
international
saja
level,
selain
we
daripada bekerja
have
melalui
to
working committee ini,
work together
aktif,
through working
ya, kita juga
committee.
harus
We
mengisi
have
dengan
to
kegiatan-kegiatan lainnya
actively
untuk
engage
mempromosikan,
with other
untuk
activities
mendorong
to promote,
agar deklarasi hak
to
asasi petani ini
make sure
menjadi
that the
roh,
peasant
menjadi
human
prinsip di
right,
dalam
the
kebijakan-kebijakan
peasant
yang
human right
telah
declaration can
di
be the
berbagai
spirit
lembaga dunia.
of the public policy and also
Demikian juga
regulation
tentunya
at
di
international
regional.
level.
Nah,
Same
terkhusus
thing
di
at
region kita ini,
regional level,
menurut
especially
saya
in
di
our
Asia ini,
region,
Asia
in
Tenggara
Asia,
ataupun Asia Selatan,
Southeast Asia, or
kita harus
South
lebih
Asia.
aktif lagi
We
dalam
have to be more
mendorong
active
agar kebijakan-kebijakan pemerintahan di
to
Asia Tenggara,
promote
di
the
Asia
government
Selatan maupun di
policies
Asia
in
Timur
Southeast
ini
Asia,
menjadi
East Asia, and
tentunya
South
di
Asia
tiap-tiap
can
nasional.
protect peasants' human
Serikat
right.
Petani Indonesia
So
harus terus
SPI
semakin menggelorakan
has
kerja-kerjanya,
to
ya,
amplify their
bagaimana agar
work
undang-undang, kebijakan-kebijakan di nasional
to
ini
ensure the
bisa
national legal framework, the national public
mengimplementasikan,
policy
bisa
can implement
mengharmonisasikan
and can
dari isi
harmonize
UNDROP ini.
the content
Demikian
of
juga di tempat.
UNDROP. Same
Karenanya
thing with other
kita akan
countries.
mendengar
That's
bagaimana
why
perkembangan
here we are going
dari
to
Indonesia,
hear, the
bagaimana
update from
UNDROP
Indonesia,
ini
how
diimplementasikan,
UNDROP has been implemented
diharmonisasikan di
and has been
AOP,
harmonized.
ya, dari
Same thing with AOP
Thailand, dari
and
Timor
from
Leste,
Thailand,
dari
from Timor
Filipina,
Leste, from the
dari Sri
Philippines,
Lanka,
from
ANPA,
Sri Lanka, ANFA,
dan tentunya nanti kita mendengar dari Ibu
and
Salmali.
also
Bagaimana
from Miss
kedepannya,
Salmali.
tahun depan dari working committee ini.
What is
Saudara-saudara
the next
sekalian,
step of
terakhir
working
saya ingin
committee in the
katakan,
following years? My
hadirnya
last point,
UNDROP
everyone,
ini adalah merupakan
the birth
hasil
of
perjuangan
UNDROP
kita, hasil
is
kerja keras
our
kita,
joint effort.
dan saya yakin dan percaya
And I
terus
truly believe
bekerja keras,
that
ya,
if we
untuk
keep working
menjalankan
hard
UNDROP ini, ya,
to
kita
implement
akan
UNDROP,
bisa membawa perubahan
we
bagi
can create
kehidupan
change
manusia, umat
for
manusia di
the
dunia,
life of
khususnya bagi
human in the world,
petani,
especially
orang-orang yang
for
bekerja.
the peasants and
Selamat
other
kepada
people
kita,
working in
ya,
rural areas.
dalam
Congratulations to all of
UNDROP
us.
ini. Mari kita terus berjuang.
Let's
kasih.
fight together.
Assalamualaikum
Thank you so much.
warahmatullahi
May
wabarakatuh.
peace be upon us all.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you very much, Bang Adi, for your important and meaningful message. Yeah, how we continue to influence public policy. Yeah, regional, especially in ASEAN, in SARS, yeah, also in FAO Asia Pacific. It is important. There's no. I give time to Kak Joseph. Please, Kak Joseph.
Thank you, Zainal. First of all, good to see Bang Henry again. On behalf of the organizers of this webinar, Serikat Petani Indonesia, La Via Campesina, and Focus on the Global South, Allow me to give a very warm welcome to all the participants of this very special webinar on the 6th anniversary of UNDROP. As Zainal pointed out, we're celebrating, of course, the adoption by the UN General Assembly in December 17 or 18 of the Declaration of the Rights of Peasants and Other People Working in Rural Areas. The declaration, supported by 121 member states, represents a global recognition of the important contributions of peasants and other people in rural communities to food production and rural development. This year, we also celebrate another milestone, the creation of the UNDROP Working Group, which represents a significant push in the promotion and implementation and progressive realization of the rights enshrined in the declaration. As pointed out in the first report of the working group, although the declaration is a United Nations declaration, it remains first and foremost a peasant bill of rights. It was not states that launched the process, but peasants themselves with the support of their representative organizations. End of quote. That too is worth celebrating and highlighting, that it is possible to push for global recognition and support for peasants' rights. The process by which UNDROP was developed and then adopted is especially important to highlight in the context of the crisis of multilateralism and the urgent need to build alternative approaches to multilateralism from the ground up as people's responses to multiple crises. But as the UN experts pointed out in 2022, and I quote, despite recognition that peasants and rural workers are essential to providing everyone food and protecting the planet's biodiversity, the world has treated them as expendable, unquote. We are also seeing a lot of human rights violations and various obstacles to the realization of peasants' rights, including the criminalization of peasant struggles, the killings, incarceration, and reprisals of peasant leaders as a result of their assertion of their rights. And so, even as we celebrate UNDROP, we also come together to continue to push UNDROP's implementation and how to mainstream UNDROP in public policy. Because as Bang Henry pointed out, having a declaration will not automatically guarantee the realization of peasants' rights, but it has to be constantly and consistently pushed and asserted in order to give flesh and blood to the declaration. There are discussions, for example, happening across many countries on the need to localize UNDROP, to try and push for local ordinances that recognize peasants' rights at the forefront of land struggles, and how to use UNDROP as an anchor to many campaign assertions, including legal defense of these rights. Again, welcome everyone to this webinar, and we're looking forward to hearing all the sharing of insights from across the region and in our collective efforts to support and strengthen UNDROP towards the full realization of peasants' rights. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph, for your opening remark. Yes, we face multiple crises, as also we declare in Bogota, for the 8th conference that our slogan that face global crisis. We build food sovereignty to ensure human for humanity. Yet this amid many crises, including the impact of war and also conflict. So this part of the whole, we have challenge to implement UNDROP, of course, in our organization and also in our government. And now we start to invite speakers. First, we will invite Salam Ali, as she don't have she cannot join fully, so I put Salam Ali and the first speaker. So then followed by Rafa from Setim from Geneva. So please, Salam Ali.
Okay, hello, Zainal. Can you all hear me? And can you see me and
Yes.
hear me? Is okay? Yeah?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm joining you from India. I'm Shalmali Guttal. I'm from India, and I am with Focus on the Global South, and I am now also on the working group for the implementation of UNDROP. First, I want to express a very big thank you to Via Campesina. Serikat Petani Indonesia and to focus on the Global South for organizing this event to commemorate the 6th anniversary of UNDROP. And for me, it is an immense honor to speak in the same space as the leaders who have made UNDROP a reality. Because as has been said again and again, and as we noted in our very first report that Joseph quoted, you know, UNDROP is the result of several years of advocacy and engagement with the international human rights architecture by organizations of peasants and of small-scale food providers. So UNDROP is a mini human rights declaration, but one which specifically addresses the issues, the challenges, the needs, the aspirations, and the priorities of peasants and other people working in rural areas. So it brings into one document rights that are enshrined in human rights conventions and treaties. And those rights and those treaties and conventions are already part of the binding obligations of international human rights architecture. So although UNDROP is a declaration, so is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights a declaration. But from that declaration arises the entire human rights architecture. And the obligation of member states, of governments, to respect, protect, and fulfill the rights of peasants and all people working in rural areas is binding. UNDROP is binding. We must never accept that this declaration or any human rights declaration is voluntary. Because if we accept that, we accept that basically human beings, nature, and the people who make life a reality will always come secondary to the issues of power and capital. And we will never accept that. We should not be accepting that. Now, since its adoption by the UN General Assembly in 2018, human rights experts all over the world, and especially even in the human rights system, have expressed support for UNDROP's implementation. So, for example, on the occasion of UNDROP's first anniversary in 2019, 9 UN special rapporteurs, special procedures, and 4 treaty body members, they released a joint statement in which they committed to protect the rights of peasants and other rural workers and to integrate these rights in the exercise of their mandates and to provide guidance to states on how states and member states and governments can implement UNDROP and protect the rights of peasants and other people working in rural areas. And this is, you know, before our working group was even formed. Then in 2022, on the 4th anniversary, 12 special procedure mandate holders released a joint statement in which they stated that UNDROP provides a framework to enable a just transition to a food system where biodiversity and human rights flourish. UNDROP provides not only recognition of peasant and rural workers' rights and contributions, but also serves as a roadmap for states, the UN, business enterprises, and all stakeholders to take concrete actions on the ground. So even before our working group was formed, UN human rights experts, special procedures, rapporteurs, treaty bodies were already appreciating and applauding UNDROP and the big victory of the struggles and the campaigning of the peasant and the small-scale food producers movement. Now, in our first report to the Human Rights Council, which is available on the website, and to the UN General Assembly this year, we presented a conceptual framework that explains how we as a working group interpret the validity, the legitimacy of all of UNDROP's rights holders and provisions, and also our broad strategy towards implementation. So we tried to elaborate, we did elaborate in that first report, that using the provisions of UNDROP itself, the special attachment to land, family labor, the production for consumption in the family, but also markets, and the entire range of activities that encompass food, agricultural, and other production in rural areas, how this interpretation applies to different rights holders, because we wanted to make sure that right from the beginning, our conceptual framework will make it clear that UNDROP has to be an inclusive declaration that will not create the kind of competition that we have seen private sector try to make. In many international bodies, we have seen how corporations and the private sector, for example, we've seen how corporations and the private sector have tried to divide peasants, have tried to divide small-scale food producers by co-opting them into their own business enterprises. So we want to try to avoid that kind of co-optation again. So we try to present a conceptual framework that is very clear and that shows that the commitment of the working group is to work for the UNDROP's rights holders. And then we also point our strategy that we explained in that first report, included, for example, that we will uptake a multi-constituency approach, which means we work with the rights holders organizations, peasants, fisherfolk, indigenous people, rural women, youth organizations, small-scale fishers, herders, and small-scale processors, all part of the local food systems and the food sovereignty movement. Then we would also work very closely to do outreach and public education to build awareness and public pressure for appropriate policies and laws, coordination with member states, with civil society organizations, human rights organizations, academics, human rights experts, and other technical bodies. And then also work with national and regional human rights courts and arbitration mechanisms to make sure that UNDROP is actually understood and appreciated and integrated into the policies and laws and mechanisms at different levels. So in this way, localize UNDROP, ground UNDROP, and at the same time also make sure that it is reflected and present in the deliberations of even national, regional, and international human rights and other economic and social arrangement kind of bodies. We sent a call for inputs in July, and we received more than 100 responses in a very short time. We are systematizing them and are pulling out the priority issues for our work in the next 2 or 3 years, at least from that. We have also had in-person consultations with civil society organizations, social movements, and some member states in Geneva in October. We've had many online consultations with organizations of rights holders through Zoom and other online apps. And based on that, we have developed some priorities for next year, which I will share with you. But before that, I also want to point out that for the 6th anniversary, our working group has also issued a statement where we recognize again the important role, the crucial role that the 1.2 billion peasants and rural people across the world play in fighting against climate change, in conserving biodiversity, eradicating hunger and poverty. And we note that UNDROP places a very high value on local traditional knowledge, local culture, and diverse livelihood options, including indigenous varieties of seeds and plants and breeds, and also emphasizing the interconnectedness of culture, nature, and society. And this is one of the unique things about UNDROP, that it brings into one document all the possibility to make these connections. UNDROP encapsulates also a very wide range of solutions to protect and advance the right to food sovereignty, biodiversity, seeds, access to land and natural resources and justice, to fair working conditions, and of course to legal and political participation, with special attention to women, girls, youth, older persons, and all those vulnerable who face extra vulnerability. So we also believe that UNDROP has introduced innovative interpretation of fundamental human rights, and it can serve and should serve as a vital tool for regional human rights courts, and also regional human rights mechanisms. So when there are human rights disputes, UNDROP should and must be invoked. And our aim is to make sure that these the provisions of UNDROP are recognized by all international bodies, including international financial institutions, so that they cannot make human rights and the rights of people and the rights of communities be of less importance than economic financial arrangements. Now, at the same time, we are also noting that peasants and rural people continue to face discrimination and multiple violation of human rights. They suffer disproportionately from hunger, poverty, displacement, and conflicts. And we want to remind the world again, even on this 6th anniversary, that peasants and rural workers are 80% of the world's hungry and 70% of the people living in extreme poverty, even though they provide up to 80% of the local food consumed in developing countries, you know? So those who produce food, who provide food, who make food a reality are hungry and exploited. And this is an unacceptable condition. We also note that the rights holders covered by UNDROP are on the front line of the most pressing challenges of the world, especially those linked to the triple planetary crises of climate change, biodiversity loss, and also pollution and environmental contamination. Now, what we have decided to do as a working group, at least for 2025, we would like to present 2 reports. We will prepare 2 reports to the UN Human Rights Council and the UN General Assembly. One report will be, what is the condition of UNDROP's rights holders 6 years after the declaration? So go further into depth of the kinds of challenges and issues that peasants and other people working in rural areas, UNDROP's rights holders, are facing, and what needs to be done. Where have there been good practices, where these rights have indeed been protected, where the situation has improved, where where peasants and other people in rural areas, rural workers, have agency to be able to make change, and where are they facing particularly challenging conditions. So the second report, and both the reports actually dovetail together, is on the issue of political participation of peasants and rural workers and rural people working in rural areas in policy making. Because UNDROP has special provisions on the active and free participation of all UNDROP's rights holders in policies and decisions that affect their lives, lands, and livelihoods. But we see that peasants and rural workers continue to be marginalized from decision making, whether it's to do with COP or with biodiversity or with trade, investment, even in the case of social policy and in the case of national social protection, national food security, sovereignty. We see that those who are at the front lines of producing food and at the front lines of facing the challenges are marginalized completely from policy and legislative making. We also note the huge challenge, of course, that are faced by peasants and their rights defenders and land rights defenders through criminalization, through violent actions, and other points that Joseph also mentioned on the issue of criminalization. So we have decided that these issues should be the ones that we take up for our work in 2025. So once again, one will be the condition, one will be the situation of the rights holders. What is their situation 6 years from since the adoption of UNDROP? What has changed, and what more do we need to do? And then the other report, the thematic report on the issue of political civil participation of UNDROP's rights holders in all the different policy and negotiating spaces. Of course, a lot more needs to be done, but this is what, and then in order to be able to prepare these reports, we are going to make another call for inputs, which will be ready in January, which we will share with you. We would like to have regional consultations, and we are planning those, and we will share the information of how these regional consultations will be held. And as far as possible, we would like to have as many in-person consultations. We are trying to raise the resources and rejig our own budget, because now our budgets are smaller to be able to do that. So some we can do online, some we will do in person. So my appeal to you on behalf of our working group is that we need to work together to create public pressure for UNDROP's implementation at different levels. Because if we don't do that, UNDROP will only stay something on paper. We also need your inputs in developing these reports. And so any formations that you have, any big meetings that you're having, please let us know. So somehow, one way or another, we can participate and learn. And if you have any other inputs that you would like us to include, or the data information, we are glad to receive it. We will be reaching out formally, but I'm just putting this out there already in advance before our call for inputs goes out. And, finally, in closing, I think all I would like to say is that, this declaration came from decades of struggle of small-scale food providers. And in order to make it a reality, we will need to continue to work together. And we look forward to doing that with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Salmali, for presenting the first report here as a working group, and also sharing what you plan for the two kind of report linked with the situation and also the thematic areas. I think because it is very important, we can open for the question, because Salmali will not join fully. So please, if you have a question or clarification to Salmali. And I would like to inform you, Salmali, that Lafayette Messina Southeast and East Asia conducted consultation in Bogor in August. So then we send the input to you. Of course, we will prepare for the second input for your report. And of course, please share to me the exact deadline so we can conduct consultation linked with this. Okay, any question, or maybe Bang Henry or the participant linked with the important step of work of the UN working group. Yeah. Okay, maybe later, because we want to also exchange our work in implementing the UNDROP, both in internal and also external, by influencing our government. So now for the first speaker, actually Rafa, but Rafa was at him still go to UN building, so we will put him a letter. And now we invite SBI Afghan, and then continue by Monlar, Anuka, and Samila. So please, Afghan, you have 10 minutes. After that, premise from Nepal. Yeah, please, Afghan.
Ya, terima kasih Mas Zainal. Saya akan berbicara dalam
Thank you.
bahasa Indonesia.
Thank you, Mas Zainal. I'll be speaking in Bahasa Indonesia.
Baik. Apakah sudah kelihatan?
This,
Ya, sudah.
can you see my screen?
Oh, ini salah. Oke. Oke, baik. Terima kasih atas kesempatannya.
Thank you.
Senang bisa bertemu dengan saudara-saudara sekalian di sini.
It's a pleasure to
Saya
see you in these
menyampaikan
occasions, and in these occasions, I would like to share what SPI has done to mainstream UNDROP, especially in the context of public policy.
Izinkan saya menyampaikan
First of all,
situasi terkini
please allow me to share
di
the
Indonesia.
current situations in
Untuk
Indonesia.
secara umum, yang pertama di
Like
Indonesia sendiri
the first in Indonesia,
terjadi peningkatan yang signifikan ya eh,
there is
untuk jumlah
a
para petani
significant
kecil di Indonesia,
increase in
di
the number of
mana di tahun
smallholders.
2013 itu
In
jumlah
2013,
petani kecil di Indonesia
the
itu
number of
sekitar
smallholders
14 juta orang,
is like 14
dan terakhir di
million
tahun
people.
2023 itu
And in
sekarang ada
2023, there are around
17 juta
17
petani kecil
million smallholders.
di Indonesia.
And the
Dalam
peasant or
peraturan
smallholders in
di Indonesia
Indonesia,
sendiri itu
based on
petani yang
Indonesia's
menguasai
regulations,
tanah
are
tidak
the
lebih
peasants who
tidak lebih dari
have land
setengah hektar.
not more
Nah,
than
jadi terjadi
zero
peningkatan
half
signifikan
hectare. So there is a
di dalam 10
significant
tahun terakhir
increase
dari tahun
in the
2013
last 10
sampai
years since
2023
2013 to
terkait jumlah petani kecil.
2023.
Dan yang kedua,
And
situasi berikutnya adalah
the second
eh,
situation,
masyarakat pedesaan masih menjadi tempat ya,
the
tempat
people who
terbesar
are
bagi
living in
masyarakat
rural
miskin di
area
Indonesia.
is still
Nah, di mana
the
lebih
place
dari
where the poor
60%
people
penduduk
lived.
miskin
More
Indonesia
than
itu berada di
60% of poor
pedesaan,
people
dan
are
ini
living in
angkanya
rural
sama sekali
areas.
tidak pernah
And
berubah dalam
the
kurun
number
beberapa
never
tahun
changed.
kebelakang.
The number
Masih
remains
jadi pedesaan,
steady,
khususnya petani
constant in the last 6
dan
years.
masyarakat yang di pedesaan ini masih
So these smallholders and also the
berada
people
di
who live
posisi
in rural
tingkat ekonomi
area
yang rendah.
are in the
Dan
low
kemudian
economic positions.
yang ketiga itu tentu saja ya masih
And
banyak
the third
konflik-konflik
is there are
agraria
still
yang
many
terjadi
agrarian
ya, bahkan
conflicts that
mengalami
occur.
peningkatan
And even it is
eskalasi
increasing,
ya,
it
khususnya
is
itu
even
pertama terkait
escalating,
pembangunan
especially
infrastruktur,
related to
yang mana
infrastructure
di sini
development. And
salah satu
here,
contohnya itu adalah
one of the example
program
is
proyek strategis nasional atau yang sering
related to national
kami singkat
strategic
sebagai
program.
PSN. Ini merupakan program
And this
yang
strategic
dapat
national
dikatakan
program
adalah legalisasi perampasan
is a
lahan
sort of
masyarakat. Ya, yang
legalizations
mana ini
of land
apabila
grabbing.
ketika suatu
And
wilayah itu
let's say
sudah
if
ditunjuk
if a territory has
menjadi
been appointed,
tempat untuk
has been designated
program ini,
as
dan
for this program,
tidak ada kata negosiasi,
there won't
tidak ada
be
kata
any
negosiasi, nih petani
negotiation
ataupun
with
masyarakat
the
harus
peasants,
meninggalkan lahan
and the
tersebut.
people
Jadi
who
ini
live in the
merupakan
land
sebuah
should leave
kebijakan yang
those areas. And this is
sebuah kebijakan untuk melegalisasi
a
perampasan lahan
policy
masyarakat.
to legalize
Dan
the
yang
land
kedua,
grabbing.
agribisnis.
And the second is
Ya, agribisnis tentu
agribusiness.
saja melakukan terus mengekspansi
So
perluasan lahan,
the expansions of land is
khususnya kalau di
continuously
Indonesia itu
happening,
adalah perkebunan
especially
sawit.
palm
Perkebunan
oil
sawit, dan ini
garden.
adalah di foto di sebelah
And
kanan bawah.
the
Ini
pictures
kita lihat
on
ada
the
beberapa
bottom
polisi dan
right, we
masyarakat.
can
Nah,
see
ini
several
adalah
police and
foto
also
dari
communities.
kejadian
And this
peristiwa
is
konflik agraria
one
di
of the
Sumatera
agrarian
Barat ya,
conflict
di
in
mana
West
masyarakat
Sumatra,
petani
where the
di
peasants
Sumatera Barat
in West
ini
Sumatra
dipaksa harus
are
melawan
forced
polisi ya, di mana di sini konflik
to
agraria
fight
terjadi
against the
dengan
police. And here, the
PT
agrarian conflict
Wilmar ya,
is
di Sumatera
happening
Barat, dan
with
banyak
a
petani yang
Wilmar
tidak boleh
company, and
menanam
many
lagi di
peasants
tempat
are not
itu, dan
allowed to
banyak
plant
juga
their
korban yang
uh,
mengalami kekerasan
the
fisik maupun
plantations, and there are also people who
mental
are
di pulau sini.
dealing with
Dan
physical
kemudian di foto
violence and also
dan
mental
kemudian
violence.
konflik juga
And
terjadi
in the
di atas
left
nama
side,
penghijauan
we
ya, atau
can see
konservasi.
the
Nah, ini
conflict
contoh
on the
misalnya
name of
ada
conservations.
foto di sebelah kiri bawah. Ini
And
adalah foto
on
di
the
mana
bottom
para
left,
petani
this is a
rumah-rumah
picture
dibakar ya, rumah-rumah
where the
petani itu
house of the
dibakar
peasants
atas
are
nama
burned
konservasi. Dan ini
on the
terjadi
name
saat
of
ini, sekarang
conservations.
sedang terjadi,
And this is
masih
currently
seperti
happening, and it's still
Jambi dan
ongoing
beberapa
in
wilayah
Jambi and also in
di
several
Indonesia lainnya.
areas in Indonesia.
Dan kemudian juga yang paling terbaru ya saat ini yang kita alami
And
adalah terjadi banyak
another
bencana alam ya,
conditions is that
terutama
natural
banjir
disasters,
ya, ini
for
akibat La
example,
Nina yang
floods,
dikatakan oleh yang
because there are
musim gugur ini
so
akan berlangsung hingga April
many,
tahun 2025,
and the
di
government
mana
said
memang
this
banyak
will last until
banjir ini
April
banyak menimbulkan
2025.
hambatan bagi
And
para
this
petani sawit.
flood create
Nah,
many
ini sedikit
challenges for the peasants
sedikit
to
gambaran
produce.
situasi
And this
tentang
is a,
Indonesia
brief
dan ini masuk ke
picture about the
saya bilang masuk
current
ke
situation in
bagaimana
Indonesia.
kerja-kerja
And now
SPI
we see
dalam
how
mengalutsamakan
SBI
UNDROP
try to mainstream
di
UNDROP
kebijakan publik ya.
in the
Nah, yang
public
pertama,
policy. The first one is
ini jadi ada dua pembagian di sini adalah
so there are two
kerja-kerja di
efforts
kebijakan publik sebelum
that we have
pada saat
done
negosiasi ya. Dan
related
kemudian
to public policy.
kerja-kerja
The first
di
is during the
pasca pengadopsian itu
negotiations,
pasca 2018.
and the second
Nah,
is after the
jadi memang
adoptions.
meskipun UNDROP pada saat itu belum diadopsi ya oleh Majelis Umum PBB di bulan
Despite
Desember 2018,
despite that UNDROP has
tetapi
not been adopted in
UNDROP sudah menjadi bahan
2018,
dasar
but
bagi
UNDROP
kita,
has
bagi
been the
SPI untuk
foundation, has been the a
mempengaruhi
basis
kebijakan atau
for
membuat
SBI
kebijakan publik
to
yang terkait
influence and
dengan
also to
petani
make the
dan masyarakat
public policy
pedesaan.
related
Nah,
to
contoh
peasants and
misalnya
also
yang
people who live
pertama
in rural
adalah
area.
undang-undang
The first one, the first
tentang
example
perlindungan
is
dan pemberdayaan
law
petani.
on
Nah,
protections
ini
and
merupakan
empowerment
produk
of
undang-undang
peasants.
yang
So this is a product
yang dapat kita bilang
legal product
100%
that we can say it's 100%
terinspirasi atau didasari oleh
inspired
naskah atau
by
teks
the
UNDROP yang pada saat itu
UNDROP
sedang
draft
dinegosiasikan.
that was
Dan juga
negotiated.
yang kedua adalah
And the second is
undang-undang pangan, ya, di
food
mana di
law.
dalam undang-undang
And
ini
in this
pertama
law,
kali Indonesia
this was the first time
memasukkan
for
konsep
Indonesia
kedaulatan
to
pangan di dalam
incorporate food sovereignty
peraturan
concept
dan
in
perundang-undangan
the
atau legislasinya.
regulations and
Dan
also the
yang ketiga
legislations.
ini adalah
And the third
Perpres
one is
atau
presidential
peraturan presiden
regulations
terkait reforma agraria,
on
yang mana
agrarian reform.
sebenarnya reforma
And
agraria ini
actually,
sudah
this
ada
agrarian reform
dari tahun
has been
1960,
existed
Undang-Undang tentang
since
Reforma Agraria,
1960.
tetapi
And
belum
we have the
ada
law
peraturan
on agrarian
lanjutan
reform, but there is
setelah itu
no
atau belum
follow-up regulations.
peraturan lanjutannya belum cukup
And the follow-up regulation
memenuhi sehingga
is
kita
not
memaksa
sufficient, so
menuntut
that we
pemerintah
try to
untuk
force
mengeluarkan
the government
peraturan lanjutan yang
to
teknis dalam
issue
pelaksanaan
the
reforma
more
agraria.
technical
Dan
regulations
kemudian
on the
setelah
implementations
pengadopsian,
of agrarian reform.
nah setelah
And after the
pengadopsian
adoptions,
kita sudah mulai terus bergencar, terus semakin
we
gencar
we
untuk
always try
mengarusutamakan
and
UNDROP dalam
work
kebijakan
hard
publik,
to
dan
mainstream the
hasilnya itu
UNDROP
ada yang
in the public
pertama,
policy. And some
yaitu
of the
UNDROP
results
ini
are,
dijadikan
first,
sebagai
this
standar
UNDROP
norma dan
becomes
regulasi
the
oleh
standard and also norm
Komisi
of
Nasional Hak Asasi Manusia
regulations
atau yang
for
disingkat
the National
Komnas HAM, di
Human Rights
mana
Commissions.
standar ini
And
merupakan
these
sebuah
standards
seperti panduan pelaksanaan
is
kebijakan
sort of
publik,
like
sehingga
the
apabila pemerintah
guideline for
melakukan
implementing the
sebuah
public
pelaksanaan
policy.
kebijakan
Let's say
publik
when the
itu harus
government want to
memiliki standar dan norma,
formulate public
standar norma
policy,
dan
there
regulasi,
are a
yang
set
mana di
of
dalam standar
standard
norma dan
norms
regulasi
and
itu
regulations,
terdapat
and inside
UNDROP,
those
khususnya
standard,
dalam
there
pelaksanaan
is
kebijakan
UNDROP,
publik terkait sumber daya alam
especially
ya pada
in the
pada satu
public
titik
policy
ini.
related to
Dan
natural
kemudian
resources.
yang kedua adalah
And the second
terkait reforma
is
agraria juga.
it's still
Ada
related
ini
to
Perpres
agrarian
peraturan
reform,
presiden
and
terkait
there is a
percepatan
presidential
reforma agraria,
regulations
di
on
mana sebelum
accelerating
pada
agrarian
saat
reform.
negosiasi kita sudah
During
berhasil
the negotiation, we have been
atau berhasil
we have successfully
membuat pemerintah untuk mengeluarkan
made
peraturan
the
presiden terkait
government
reforma agraria. Nah, sekarang kita
to
mengeluarkan
issue the presidential
kita
regulation
berhasil
on agrarian
menuntut pemerintah untuk
reform,
mempercepat
and then we
pelaksanaan reforma
try
agraria karena pada saat
also
itu
push
dan
the
ini adalah
government to accelerate
peraturan
these
presiden
agrarian
keluar dari
reforms.
tahun
So
lalu ya
this is the presidential
2023 karena kita anggap
regulations
pelaksanaan reforma
that
agraria
was
pada saat
issued in
ini itu
2023,
kemarin itu
and the
sangat lambat
implementation
ya.
of
Jadi kita
agrarian
butuh
reforms was pretty
sebuah
slow.
instruksi dari
So this
presiden untuk
is an
mempercepat
instructions
semacam
from the
ini.
president
Dan yang
to
ketiga adalah
accelerate agrarian reform.
judicial
And the
review,
last one is judicial
revisi hukum
review
terkait undang-undang
on
cipta
job
kerja yang
creation
mana
law.
mungkin
And
sudah banyak kita ketahui ya bahwa
we
undang-undang
know
cipta
that
kerja ini
our
merupakan undang-undang
job
yang
creation
memang
law is a law
mengacu kepada
that
rezim
refers
investasi
to the
yang mana
investment regime,
semua
and all
semua aspek ya
the
hampir semua aspek
aspect,
ekonomi dari aspek perburuhan, aspek
let's say the economic
pertanian,
aspect,
kemudian
labor,
pertanahan
and
itu
also
diperuntukkan
agriculture and land
untuk
aspects
investasi.
are
Contoh
in
misalnya
favor
di
of
dalam Undang-Undang Cipta
investment.
Kerja
For example, in this
ini
job creation
dimasukkan
law,
bank tanah misalnya, dan
there is a
kemudian
concept
pengelolaan
of
tanah yang lebih lama
land
bagi para
bank and
perusahaan
also
itu ada di
land
dalam
management for
undang-undang
the
ini. Dan
corporations, and all those things are regulated in this law.
mengatasnamakan UNDROP, kita
And
melakukan judicial
we
review
are on
ke
behalf
Mahkamah
of
Konstitusi
UNDROP, we
ya, dan
conducted some
dan kita berhasil pada saat
judicial
itu,
review,
tetapi
and
pemerintah
we
melakukan
succeed at the time, but
manuver
then the
politik
government
sehingga
conducted
undang-undang ini
political
masih
maneuvers,
tetap
so this
berlaku.
law is still
Nah,
applicable.
Afgan bisa dipercepat.
ya,
Afghan?
Mas. Ya, dan ini ada tiga
And
poin di bawah terkait
in
perjuangan
this
kita dalam
slide, we
konteks
can see 3
ganti rugi.
pictures. These are
Dan ini
our
aktivitas
effort.
yang kita langsung
And
jalankan
these
saat
are
ini
our
ya,
activities that we are currently
ada 2 poin yang
conducting.
digarisbawahi. Yang pertama,
And there are
saat
2
ini
points.
kita
The first one,
masih tetap konsisten
we
untuk
still
melakukan perlawanan terhadap IUPK ya,
consistently
perjanjian
fighting
perdagangan
for
UPK yang mana sudah
IE
masuk ke putaran
SIPA,
G20,
and
sudah
currently
putaran
it's
20,
already
dan
in
pemerintah
the
Indonesia rencananya
20th
ingin merampungkan
negotiation, and the
menyelesaikan
government of
perundingan ini
Indonesia
segera.
plan
Dan yang
to
kedua
complete
adalah
this negotiation
rencana
as
DPR
soon as possible.
untuk
And the
mengubah
second is we try to
undang-undang
monitor
pangan dan
Parliament's
kehutanan,
plan to
karena
amend food and forestry laws,
kemarin
because
kita mendapatkan informasi bahwa
we got the
DPR ini ingin
information
untuk
that the
merevisi
House
undang-undang pangan dan kehutanan.
is
Jadi
willing to
perlu kami
revise
dari
the food and
SPI
forestry law.
dan
So we are
aliansi
from
masyarakat sipil di
SPI
Indonesia
and
perlu
also the
untuk
Alliance
mengawal
of Civil
mengawasi
Organization Indonesia.
dan
We really
melibatkan diri
want to
dalam proses
monitor, and also we
perubahan
want to
ini.
engage
Dan selain itu
our
tentunya
part
kita
in
terus
this change.
melakukan kerja
And we
monitoring
continuously
kebijakan-kebijakan
conduct
publik lainnya di
monitoring on
Indonesia.
other public policy
Mungkin
in
itu Mas
Indonesia.
dari
That's all.
saya.
That's all from me.
Maaf
Thank
kalau
you.
kelewatan. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Much,
wabarakatuh.
Afgan, for sharing our struggle in influencing the public policy, especially on the agrarian reform and also the new plan to have a new version of the law and also forest. Thank you very much. Now we goes to Molnar. So please, Samila, please, this time is yours to share about your struggle in Sri Lanka. You have 10 minutes. Samila?
I think Shamila has to leave. I will start right now because yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Are you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Because I'm in home, and that's why I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. It's signal. Okay. Thank you so much giving this a space. Trying to with the UNDROP because it's like a 6 years anniversary we are celebrating here. This is very special. First few years we are not active to bring the UNDROP because in the country situation we are facing a lot with the economic crisis and other work. We didn't much focus as Monlar because we are in our own struggle last few years. But with the new year we have a kind of hope, and also we think it's like it's a good way to reach the rural our communities to understand why we really need to bring UNDROP as a tool to use, as a bring how they reach their struggles. In that sense, we start in this year very closely work with the UNDROP. In the process, we trying to build a network inside of the Sri Lanka. We start because Monla mostly working with the issues with the land rights and the person rights. That's the main thing. I think that's why we think it's like our leaders really need to know the UNDROP very closely, especially in the last year. We start work on the UNDROP through the women's farmers movements, because we start the provincial level capacity building awareness with our leaders. We selecting our community like war widowers, peasantries, women, and also the pastoralists, like a big dam issues who we affected by the dams, and that's how we choose to work with the UNDROP. Mostly in the sense of the microfinance, because we had a huge protest against the microfinance new regulation bill. We went to the court against that legal law, and we use Article 16 to understand how we bring the alternative trade through the a new way to understand how we move forward with the new law. In that sense, a government defeat the previous Microfinance Regulatory Act. Now we are in the committee to drafting the new alternative economy and the microfinance regulatory bill. In that way, we are trying to put our effort to bring UNDROP through the microfinance new law. And also the other side, the to work with the women's and the peasantries very closely with the process of the UNDROP. We translate UNDROP illustrator version for the Sinhala and Tamil, because we really need to reach the community leaders to understand the UNDROP. And we trying to use kind of materials, new way to materials to understand how we reach the people. The lot of communities understand why really need to UNDROP as a new way, because with the we have a same struggle in the this year with the bringing the new government and using the how work with the right base. In now people using UNDROP for their issues, they understand how they are tackle with their issues through the UNDROP. In that way, some issue of the eastern northeast, they used UNDROP through the bring against to the garbage company to reach out the government officers to using the UNDROP as a they're writing petition to the government officers through the using the UNDROP articles to reach out their issues. And also we are trying to work with that sense, because we think it's the most important part. We really need to capacity building the capacity for the community leaders, and we can reach the government. In the next year, we are planning to have a kind of round of close lawyers panel to understanding the UNDROP. Already we have a few lawyers working with us as Monla to helping us to bring to the UNDROP to legal terms like microfinance. And now we are thinking we really need to move forward with the real work with the legal legal work to change the public policies, how we reach out using the UNDROP, especially the plantation issues, because last 200 years we didn't very closely get the real solution for them. And now we have a close MPs who in the parliament, we are trying to work on it. And in January, we plan have a kind of a lobby with the lawyers. And February, we're trying to lobby with the MPs in the government, how we circulate with the UNDROP in the new government, how we work on it. That's the Monla doing these days. And also, I'm part of the committee with working with the as a going around the country, me and Chintaka doing big work to mobilize our leaders to understand the UNDROP. We have a kind of several workshops and several works to work with them to bring to the UNDROP. That's we are doing these days. And next year we are looking for the new way to reach the government to implement UNDROP. Thank you, Zaina.
Thank you very much, Anuka, yes, for sharing your struggle, especially after you have a new government. Of course, it is the big opportunity for Monlar to bring you drop with many thematic area, as you mentioned about the land rights, dam, microfinance. Yeah, this also how UNDROP can as tool of struggle in overcome the crisis in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much. Now I go to Prames, yeah, for Molnar, how your experience in bringing somebody in UNDROP in your constitution. Please, Comrade Prames. Yes, Prames, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Zainal. Uh, Thank you very much for the invitation. It's great to be the part of this very important event with great leaders, Comrade Henry Saragi, Comrade Salma Ligutel, and many leaders from different organizations. We are celebrating the 6th anniversary of UNDROP, and I think discussing on how we can implement the UNDROP at national and also create some mechanism to implement it at the international level also. So I think it's a great achievement not only for farmers organization and Via Campesina, but all the working class people of the world to have the UNDROP, uh, to have this peasant right declaration, because it's a legal instrument that recognize our rights, uh, our dignity, uh, and our respect, our self-respect. So I think it's very important and very historical document. It is historical in many cases because it addressed the root cause of marginalization of the peasantry. It is a systemic, cause. We all know, due to feudalism, due to capitalism, due to imperialism, we are affected. So I think it addresses the structural cause of marginalization of peasantry, and it addresses the right of the peasants. It recognized the peasant as a subject of human right. I think that's a great achievement for all of us. And the UNDROP also talk about seed sovereignty, food sovereignty, agroecology, which are the agenda of people's movement. And that is why also it is historical. So I think the rights of not only the farmers, but other people working in rural area are also addressed. So now somehow the legal gap which was there to address the need of the peasantry, to protect the right of the peasantry has been fulfilled. But we have, I think, lots of tasks to do. And we also have now the expert team working on how we are going to implement it. I think we can collectively work how our struggle continues for the implementation of UNDROP at different levels. So in Nepal also, we are still trying to generate more support for the implementation of UNDROP. We have translated the document in different local languages. We have organized many training programs in different provinces, different districts of Nepal, and we are trying to aware and empower peasant communities on why and how this UNDROP is very important for us, and why we need to formulate national peasants law. So in Nepal, I think many of us already know we have different progressive policies which try to address the rights of peasants and other people working in rural area. Uh, in the Constitution of Nepal, 2015 also, we have different articles such as right to food and food sovereignty as a fundamental right, and then we also have this genuine agrarian reform and scientific land reform under the Constitution. We have provisions such as peasants should have access to productive resources, peasants' knowledge should be protected and respected. These types of provisions are already there in the Constitution. And since we also have different law to guarantee the implementation of this constitutional provision, such as Right to Food Sovereignty Act 2018, it also protects the peasants' right. But I think we all know uh, the, the situation at present, the challenges we are facing all over the world. So I think Nepal is not that much isolated from the this global phenomena. So there is also intervention and penetration of corporations and different capitalist actors. So we started a process to have peasants' right law in Nepal. We started it long before, but after 2015, when our constitution was drafted and the peasants' rights were ensured in the constitution, we pressurized the government, and government agreed to have the National Peasants Law. And National Peasants Commission, in Nepali, the peasants and farmers both translate to Kisan. So National Farmers Commission was given the responsibility to have the initial draft of the National Farmers Right Bill or the law. So in 2018, the National Farmers Commission submitted one draft document on the rights of the peasants, and it submitted this draft to the Ministry of Agriculture, and we were pressurizing the ministry to proceed so that we can have the National Peasants Law. But there's no progress at all. Now I think very regressive people are there in the National Farmers Commission as well as in the ministry. So they don't want to talk about peasants' right. They don't want to talk about National Farmers or Peasants Law. Now they are talking about only how to industrialize agriculture, how to commercialize agriculture. The National Farmers Commission is now busy with the program of land bank. They think that land bank is the only solution. So I don't want to go in deep, but the situation is quite challenging, and we are continuing our struggle to have the National Peasants Law, and we are pressurizing the government, since our government, Nepal government, is one of the signatory of the UNDROP, as a country who voted for it, I think we are pressurizing the government because they have obligation to ratify it and implement it. And UNFA since long has advocated for the Pigeons Right Act or Pigeons Right Law here in Nepal. And in many of the constitutional provision, right to Food Sovereignty Act, as well as other act also, we there is already mentioned that we need national pigeons right law. So the process is going on, but it's very challenging. And last week also, our comrades were in National Pigeon Commission and also in the Ministry of Agriculture, trying to follow up the process, trying to pressurize the government to again initiate, restart the process. But let's hope that if not at national level, at the provincial and local level also, we can have some initiatives. In one of the province in Nepal, that's called Karnali province, we tried to declare it as an agroecological province, but later on government said it the organic province. At least the chemical fertilizer, GMO, chemical pesticides are banned there. We are trying to at least practice, I think, agroecology, food sovereignty, and pigeons right, even at the local level. So that's a very short sharing from my side. Sorry, I did not prepare the
Okay,
PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you so much, Pramesh. And I also see the Lakshmi, youth member from Nepal. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, yes, for your share your struggle in influencing the public policy in Nepal. Yes, we will have a 10-minute break for our interpreter. Okay, but and then we continue with presentation from KLV from Paragos, Bung Helio, yeah, and then also with other speaker, yeah, yes, we have Mokatil, Paragos, and also video message from Assembly of the Poor. Yeah, and then we can open new question and answer, especially for our question to Samali. Okay, thank you very much. We break 10 minutes, and please, Nafis, to play few video again, video of animation of UNDROP. So see you in next 10 minutes.
Onde manapun jepretane. Oh.
Baik, Pak. Bentar.
Gak ada suara.
Itu dari sini, Pak.
There's no sound.
Ya.
Nggak ada suaranya.
Ya. Yang bahasa Indonesia aja. Yes.
Iya. Tadi
The United Nations Declaration. The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Peasants and Other People Working in Rural Areas, also known as UNDROP,